Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Akhira Kurnia Iwanda, and today I want to share my thoughts on smoking in campus areas. So, as we all know, that smoking is pretty bad for you. It doesn't give anything positive or any benefits to those who smoke, and it's tough for the environment. And worst of all, it harms people who don't even smoke. And just being near the smoker means breathing in a lot of dangerous chemicals. And this affects not just smokers but everyone on campus, such as students, staff, and visitors who don't have a choice but to inhaling it. And also, cigarette smoke is loaded with thousands of chemicals. Many of them are toxic and known to damage the lungs. This can lead to serious health issues like emphysema, bronchitis, and even chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And people who've been smoking for years often struggle with lung disease. They will find it hard to catch their breath and can't even do physical activities without feeling exhausted. And the effects can be even worse for young people who might end up dealing with health problems for life. So that is why so many campuses ban smoking. A college campus is supposed to be a place to grow, learn, and improve yourself. And smoking kind of messes with that vibe. Campuses are places where focus, mental clarity, and respect for others should be front and center. And having smoking around, whether direct or secondhand, can take away from that atmosphere. And just because we don't have strict uniform or dress code doesn't mean campus is not without rules. There are guidelines for a reason. To keep the campus clean, respectful, and healthy for everyone. And also, a smoke-free campus isn't about limiting anyone's freedom. It's more about giving everyone a safe space to breathe and learn without having to worry about harmful smoke. In the end, a smoking ban on campus isn't about just following rules. It's about creating a space that values health, respect, and responsibility. And by keeping our campus smoke-free, we're helping to make it cleaner, safer, and a better place to grow, study, and spend time. Well, that's all I have to say for this topic. And now let's switch to the second or the last assignments. Let's check it out. Okay, so for the next topic, I'm gonna talk about anything you should know about adverb of frequency. So, what is adverb of frequency? Adverb of frequency is an adverb used to show how often an action occurs. Usually, this adverb is used to answer questions such as how often in English. And here are the examples of adverbs of frequency. The first one we have always, and the second one we have usually, and the third one is often, the fourth is sometimes, 5 rarely, and 6 being never. Okay, so first we're gonna talk about always. What does always mean? So always is an adverb of frequency that signifies an action or event occurring without exception, indicating a 100% certainty or consistency in behavior or routine. When we use always, we mean that the action happens every single time without fail. And in Indonesian, we call it selalu. And how to use always? So the word always is used to describe things that happen all the time or are part of a person's usual behavior. For example, if someone says, "I always brush my teeth in the morning," it means they do it every morning without fail. Always is usually placed before the main verb in a sentence or after auxiliary verbs like am, is, are, have, and has. And for the second one, we have usually. So what is usually? The word usually is of course, adverb of frequency, meaning it tells us how often something takes place. When we use usually, it means something happens most of the time, though not every single time. It's often part of a routine or a habit, but there could be days when it doesn't happen as expected. And in Indonesian, we call it biasanya. And how to use usually? So, usually is a word used to describe something that happens almost all the time, but not always. It's something that's done often or a common habit, though sometimes it might not happen. We can put usually before the main verb in a sentence. For example, I usually wake up at 6 a.m. And for the third one, we have often. What does often mean? Often is an adverb used to show that something happens many times, but not all the time. It means that the action is common or regular, but there might be some times when it doesn't happen. When we use often, it suggests a pattern or a routine, but it's not as frequent as always. And in Indonesian, we call it sering. So how to use it? So often is used to talk about things that happen many times, but not all the time. It shows that an action or activity happens regularly, though sometimes it might not. And often is usually placed before the main verb in a sentence and or after auxiliary verbs. For example, she often visits her grandparents, and they are often busy on weekends. And for the fourth one, we have sometimes. What is sometimes? So sometimes is an adverb that helps us express that an action or event takes place at a certain time, but not consistently. It indicates that something happens occasionally or from time to time without a fixed schedule. And in Indonesian, we call it terkadang. How to use sometimes? Sometimes is a word we use to say that something happens now and then, but not all the time. It indicates that an action or event occurs on some occasions, but it is not regular. We can put sometimes before the main verb or after auxiliary verb and at the end of a sentence. For example, she sometimes plays soccer. They are sometimes busy, and I enjoy drawing, but I don't do it sometimes. And so for the fifth one, we have rarely. What is rarely? Rarely is an adverb that means something happens very infrequently or not often. It indicates that an action or event occurs only on a few occasions, making it uncommon or unusual. It helps describe actions, habits, or events that are not part of regular routine. And in Indonesian, we call it jarang. How to use rarely? So, rarely is an adverb that means something happens very infrequently or not often, as we all know. It indicates that an action or event occurs only on a few occasions, making it uncommon or unusual. When we use the word rarely, we are emphasizing that the frequency of the action is quite low. We can use rarely before the main verb of a sentence and after an auxiliary verb. For example, I rarely eat fast food, and they are rarely on time. And last but not least, we have never. What is never? Never is an adverb that means something does not happen at any time. It indicates the complete absence of an action or event. When you say never, you are emphasizing that something is not done or does not occur at all. There are zero occasions when it happens, and in Indonesian, we call it tidak pernah. How to use never? So, when we use never, we are saying that an action or event does not occur at all, right? So, there are no occasions when it happens. It is the strongest way to say that something doesn't happen. And we can put never before the main verb and after auxiliary verbs, such as is, or, and have. And for example, she never watches horror movies, and they have never been to Paris. So that concludes today's assignments. I will take my leave now, but remember, hard work makes the dream work. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye bye.